Maggie Gates, welcome to book club.
Thank you for having me. I've been waiting. I've been crossing my fingers and hoping I got invited.
Oh my gosh, I have been waiting for the perfect moment as well. You have such an exciting year ahead, so I was like, how can we make this fit with the schedule? You and I met in Nashville a few months ago, and it was the most beautiful night, celebrating the Griffith brothers. So now we're on to
Yeah.
the next adventure, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah. That was such a fun night.
It
And I ended
was.
up plotting a book right after the event ended because we were driving around Nashville
Yeah.
and I was like, like we had spent the morning at the Country Music Hall of Fame and I was like,
Yes.
I need to write a book here. And so
Hmm.
literally like went back to the hotel, scribbled notes down, and entire
Amazing.
book plotted. So Nashville was a great
Incredible.
trip.
So I'm hearing you'll be back, which I love to hear.
Fingers
Um,
crossed.
yes, oh my gosh. Well, I start most of my book club meetings chatting with authors about their villain origin story, aka a little less menacing. How did you get into reading? And then furthermore, how did you get into writing? I know your story is a super fun one, so would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. I've always been a really voracious reader. Really fell in love with reading as a young child. My parents were always pushing us to read more. And then like most people, you get into high school and college and you have to read for academic purposes and it kind of takes the joy out of it.
For sure.
Um, but I found romance really when I was in my early 20s and I was just kind of hooked. I was a new mom and I would go out on Sunday afternoons. That was my me time. I would
Mhm.
end up getting like a mass market from Barnes and Noble, and then I would find a parking lot and
Love
just
it.
sit and read whatever mass market I had gotten. And it kind of became a problem. And so my husband was like, Happy birthday. I got you Kindle Unlimited, which is
Oh,
how I really fell
amazing.
in love with indie romance.
Yes.
Um, and there was no looking back and there was this like spiral of I could not stop reading. I was so addicted to it, still am, and
Yeah.
it started this like revitalization inside of me and this joy. I was going through like really severe postpartum depression, so I
Mhm.
started writing fan fiction. I started trying to write original stories and it ended up where now this is what I do for a living and that is the coolest journey ever.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I always wonder if people's first published book is their first like work. Is that the case for you? It sounds like you wrote some fan fiction, some other things in the meantime. What was your
I
first
did.
complete
I was like
project?
hardcore writing fan fiction. I would
Love.
write during nap time, and it was just this thing where it was just for me. I think
Yeah,
sometimes in motherhood, you lose yourself a little bit. You become so and so's mom
sure.
instead of, hey, I'm Maggie the person.
Right.
And for me, that was just my thing. And when you're home with a newborn all day, there's not really great two-way conversation going on. And
Sure.
so to
Yeah.
me, that was like, well, I'm just gonna make up these adult conversations.
Yeah.
And so it was just this like really fun incubation period where I got to dabble, in these worlds that I love as a fan. And then slowly but surely I added original characters and all of
Amazing.
that kind of trickled into what ended up being my first published book.
Amazing. Yes, let's chat about your first published book. Where'd you get your inspiration? What was that process like to be like, I'm going to take this leap?
The first published book is always kind of funny to me. So it's a book called The Stars Above Us. It is military romance. And if any of the listeners are familiar with the Griffith Brothers series, that is one of my more popular series.
Mhm.
This is the oldest brother, Nate's book. And that started because at the time I was writing fan fiction, I was writing military romance. And I was like, this is my jam. I like the action packed sort of feel. And I really want to kind of see if I can do it on my own and take the
Yeah.
training wheels off a little bit. And so it was just this like really I like to say ignorance is bliss sometimes in publishing because if I knew then what I knew now, I would never have published that book. But I'm so glad that I did
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I love it so much.
It's phenomenal. And it was so fun to revisit those characters later down the line in your backlist. I talked to you when we were in Nashville quite a bit about the Maggieverse and the fact that you have such a beautifully interconnected but also can be read as standalone world. Do you have a bit? The only word coming to mind is a murder board with all the red ribbon of like, okay, I want to be sure this person gets their story, or do you just borrow characters from different books and be like, now's your time, you've been promoted?
So I used to have the murder board situation. I
Yeah.
called it like the Maggie verse Bible, and it
Oh,
really had
so
like
good.
a list of, okay, in this book, here are all the cameos that happen, here are all the crossovers that happen. So I
Hmm.
know like who's popping in where.
Sure.
Um, I think I stopped updating it after I wrote What Saves Us. Um,
I
and
love.
then I haven't updated it since. And
Sure.
really, it's just, I know all of these characters so well, like they're my own
Right.
friends. And so it's really easy to kind of plug them in where I think,
Sure.
oh, I need a billionaire, so it's going to be Isaac Lawson, or I need a football player, so it's going to be TJ Bryant, or I need a chef, so it's going to be Luca or Lennon. And so
Mhm.
it's really fun just to, kind of sneak those in.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things about the Maggie verse in general is you have so many different types of characters to the point you just made of like there's a billionaire, there's a football player, there's a cowboy, and but it's not like you're I don't feel you're genre hopping because the Maggieverse is just the Maggieverse. If you love a Maggie Gates book, you're gonna like anything you've written. What do you feel like makes a Maggie Gates book? I know what I think makes a Maggie Gates book, but what makes it so comfortable to hop between your character styles?
I think it really comes down to the way that I want readers to feel when they're reading a book.
Mhm.
So whether we're talking billionaires or cowboys or my one sports romance that I then realized I hate writing sports romance. Um, I want readers to feel safe. I want them to feel loved and heard and seen and understood. I want books to be a mirror where they can see their lives reflected with the hope of a happy ending. And so no matter, what kind of background we're putting those things
Mhm.
in front of, it's going to feel the same. And so I feel
Sure.
really lucky that readers trust me to kind of go on all of these different tangents,
Yeah.
because they know that they're going to be treated with respect and with care, and
Sure.
that they're going to get that great happy ending.
Absolutely. I always am. You're such an easy person to recommend because it's just like if you want to feel comfortable reading, Maggie's the person for you. And when you started releasing the Griffith Brothers, I was like, Cowboy, of course. Or with the Falls Creek series, I was like, First Responders, of course. Like it just feels so comfortable. So I'd love to chat about characters for a moment. Do you tell your characters how their story's gonna go, or do they tell you how their story's gonna go?
I try. I really try sometimes, and they are so hard-headed, and they just like to take the steering wheel and shove me over into the passenger seat. And honestly, I'm fine with that because I think some of the best stories happen when I'm just sitting, down taking notes and writing an incident report for what's happening.
Sure.
Um, and it doesn't feel forced. And so those are the moments that I feel really inspired as an author because it's just happening so naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that must make the Maggieverse just make so much more sense because they just exist. They're people to you,
Yeah.
um, as well. So you can just be like, "Hey, friend." Was there a character that came to you the easiest, and then was there a character that you were just like, "Who are you? What do you want?"
Oh man. I would say that Christian and Cassandra in Duststorm came to me the easiest. And part of that
Mhm.
was because I had had so long to kind of mull on their story. Like we talked about
Sure.
a minute ago, The Stars Above Us was my first book. And in the end of that book, you are introduced to Christian as a single dad. His daughters are quite young at that point. And my intention was to immediately write the Griffith brothers after that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to put, pause this for a minute, and I'm going to write this 6-book beach series called The Poker Club. And then I was like, you know
Love
what?
them.
Okay, I'll write the Griffith brothers after that. And I was like, no, I want to write the series called Falls Creek. And I just kept pushing it off. And so finally I was
Sure.
like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to get it over with. And I'm so glad I did because it ended up working out really well for me. But
Yes.
um, all of those years like gave me time to really get to know Christian, and he was always in the back of my mind. I think the hardest character for me to write was Will Solomon in the Poker Club.
Yeah.
He did not want to talk to me for the longest time, and I was
Oh,
like, this
interesting.
man is like a piece of cardboard. He is so boring. He is so unexciting. because we had just come off of writing book 3, which was a
Yeah.
big enemies to lovers. There's
Sure.
lots of tension, lots of banter, and then you have this nice guy billionaire, and I don't know what to do with him. And so I was certain that book would flop, and it didn't. And people
I think it's my
really
favorite.
latched onto him. Right. He's like a fan favorite. And I'm like, okay, so we like the really gentle, like caregiver type.
Mhm.
And that's when I kind of found like my favorite type of leading man to write.
Sure.
And it is the gentle, he has his life together and he is there to support her. Um, and then I
Love.
kind of saw that snowball when I wrote Austin Hale, when I wrote Shane.
Mhm.
And I really kind of honed in on what brings me joy to write.
Incredible. You know I'm always sad for those type of MMCs. No one's surprised there. What is your favorite type of female lead to write then?
I love a grumpy leading lady. Like I
Yeah.
feel bad sometimes that I put my leading ladies through the ringer because, they've got a lot of stuff going on. But I love a grumpy leading lady. I love my like Cassandra is one of my all-time favorite characters that I've written. She has so many layers. She is so um nuanced, I think. And it's funny to me when I get tagged in reviews for Cassandra because I
Mhm.
get a lot of mixed feedback on her, which is totally fine because she's a very polarizing character.
Sure.
But 90% of the time, it's, oh my gosh, I hated her and then I understood her. And to me, that's not a flaw, that's a feature. Um, and I love,
Yeah.
peeling back those layers and presenting somebody one way, and then you realize what makes them tick and why they are the way that they are.
Yeah. I was talking to someone on a reader's retreat last week, and I said, if Cassandra was a man, she'd be the man. Like, she would be the ultimate book boyfriend, and y'all aren't ready for that conversation.
It's a conversation that I think needs to be had, though,
Yes.
because we can take all of her characteristics that get criticized. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not stepping on anyone's toes. You can feel however you want to feel about her.
Sure.
But if we assign those characteristics to a book boyfriend, he's grumpy and he's broody and he's sexy. But when it's a woman, she's abrasive.
Yeah.
She's a little bit bitchy. She's
Yeah.
unpleasant. She's mean. And I think that that's a conversation that we collectively need to look at and consider why
Absolutely.
we think those things.
We're so hard on our FMCs that I feel like it doesn't necessarily restrict, but it can occasionally make authors feel a little bit hesitant to move forward with an FMC who's not a perfect ray of sunshine, quiet, accommodating, those kind of things, which I think is like kind of a struggle that we're dealing with, like in general out in the world, and we can't even escape to it in our books. I feel like you exemplify that bravery and that openness and vulnerability extremely well. Do you ever feel any hesitation to write those characters, or are you like, this is what needs to exist in my world?
I think, yeah, I feel very self assured that this is the character that I want to put out
Hmm.
because I want, as somebody who often gets called abrasive and a little grumpy, I'm the first to say I'm not a sunshine character in my own
Sure.
life, but I want women to feel comfortable however they are presented in the world.
Sure.
If you are a optimistic character in your own life and you are sunshiny and you see the best in everyone, I have met so many of those people and I adore them.
Yeah.
I want you to feel as empowered as Brooke is in Downpour because her
Yes.
optimism is her superpower. She pulls people through their darkest times
Hmm.
in this like unwavering way, and that is strength. Like
Yes.
that's not just, being our baddie Cassandra, but Brooke has her own kind of strength. But with Cassandra, I want women to be like, oh, you mean I don't have to be agreeable? I don't have to be, palatable. It's okay to show
Sure.
up in the world exactly as I am. I want readers to
Hmm.
feel that same confidence. So if I have to take a
Absolutely.
hit on somebody being like, oh, she's abrasive, that's totally fine.
I love to when we were having this conversation, it goes to show that you don't need to change to find a love story or change to be loved. And it was just like I'm getting chills thinking about it. I love the three-dimensional elements you place into your characters, especially your female characters. I think we typically like try to Y in a lot of our female characters and place ourselves in in those shoes as readers. And so being able to step back in your stories and be like, this is her story that I'm getting to enjoy is like just so refreshing. So thank you for writing that way.
Yeah, thank you. That was very kind.
Oh my gosh, of course. I just love everything about your universe. So, shifting gears a little bit, I feel like even in your time publishing, the like marketing style has gotten a little bit different, and we very much so tropified marketing and kind of boiled stories down to tropes. I feel like your stories are so much more complex than a list of tropes. However, and tropes existed far longer than we were listing them out. But with that being said, is there anyone that you're like, I love writing this? I feel like an enemies to lovers is your bag. No one does a contemporary enemies to lovers quite like you. But what is your favorite to write? And then is there any that you're like, I'm never writing that? It's not happening. I know we talked about this in Nashville, but we'll give it to the
Yeah,
podcast people.
I think on the never list, I'm not a love triangle fan, but every time I
Mhm.
say I don't like love triangles, I read one, I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. Like I
Yeah.
just eat it up.
Yep.
Um, but it kind of scares me to try to pull it off. So I don't know that I
Sure.
would ever really touch a love triangle.
Yep.
Um, Tropes that I absolutely love writing, age gap. I love writing a grumpy sunshine, but I love it in reverse. I love like a sunshine golden retriever type character,
Yeah.
and then a girl who's going through some stuff and she's might be a little bit grumpy.
Sure.
Um, I think like I'm looking at my shelf right now, and what comes to mind is 500 first editions
Yeah.
because he is such like a golden retriever character and he's so
Yeah.
down bad for her. And I think, a lot of us crave that type of support and that type of unconditional
Sure.
love from the get-go.
Yep.
Um, and I love found family. I really do. I love these big like ensemble casts and, really figuring out what makes people tick and also exploring the platonic relationships that kind of happen
Yeah.
on the side of the main romance.
So good. I will beg for Poker Club to be a TV series till the day I die. I will be on the front
Let's
lines of
make it
that.
happen.
Yes, like it is just like Chef's Kiss. I love your found family as well. I was curious. We have a lot of authors that listen as well, which so grateful. Hello, everybody. How your stories far extend beyond the tropes. And when you're retouching on a trope, like say you're writing your third, fourth enemies to lovers, you're far into your backlist at this point. How do you find a uniqueness to each of these characters and these storylines? It sounds like you're a plotter. It sounds like more than a pantser, but maybe not. What is your
I'm
process like?
100% a plotter.
Love it.
And I think when it comes to tropes, so I have a culinary background. I went to pastry school. I was a pastry chef for a long time. So I like to look at tropes as ingredients. And,
Love.
we can have flour, sugar, eggs, butter, vanilla, and it makes a cookie. But you take those
Right.
exact same ingredients and it can make a cake as well.
Yep.
Add something else to it. It can be a pie. You change the way that you layer them and it can be a
Love that.
trifle. And I think, like you said, sometimes we happen to boil down books to tropes because it's really
True.
easy marketing. Because when I can look at a
Mhm.
menu, I go, oh, I like all these ingredients. So I know that
Right.
however this is put together, it's going to taste good to me.
Sure.
But I also think that, we can just change the amount here and there, and it's going to be something totally different than what, other author B is doing over here.
Sure.
And I think that's the really fun thing about romance is people are so unique, they're so different, and so no two
Mhm.
stories are gonna be exactly the same, even if they're written by the same person.
Sure. I absolutely love that. And similarly, do you have like a personal thesis or hope as like the Maggie Gates experience? Like, do you have a hope for readers when they read your stories overall? Or do you have like a specific thesis for every book, or maybe a little bit of both? Maybe that's a little too meta, but
Yeah, I like I said, earlier in the conversation, my goal is to make people feel seen, heard, known, and loved.
yeah.
But I also want people to take away empathy. I
Hmm.
want people to look at characters, maybe not putting themselves as the main character in the story, but as a third party observer, watching it
Hmm.
all go down so that they can maybe understand somebody else's life that looks different from their own. Maybe, they have a deeper understanding for why someone in their own life did something or reacted a certain way. And,
Yes.
it's going to give us this bigger, more beautiful, more vibrant picture of the world and the people in it. And I think that romance just in general does that so well because we're looking at human beings. It's not just, oh, this big 6 foot tall sexy broody man.
Hmm.
It's, here's a person with wounds, with a background, with
Sure.
hurts and fears, and we see that play out in this sort of very safe playground that we have in the genre. And so I think we can learn so much from it, and that's why I think that romance is one of the most formidable genres because it can really affect
Hmm.
change in how we relate to each other.
Absolutely. All of my regular podcast listeners will be like, yes, I always talk about reading for empathy and the opportunity to just like understand someone who's not like you and with the guarantee of a happily ever after. So, like, whatever road you're going down and person you're trying to understand, even if I hear a lot, I just didn't like her. And it's like, well, did you like her story? Like, it's not really. This is not America's Next Top Best Friend. This is a romance book. So I always encourage people when I'm in conversation after reading a book is like, okay, even if she wasn't just like you or he like did something that you didn't like, what could you learn from that character? The Nestas of the world, like just some polarizing characters. There's so much to learn from, even if you're not like that person. So I absolutely
Absolutely.
adore that. It's
I
just,
I'm a big Ted
yeah, go
Lasso
ahead.
fan, and
Yes.
I quote Ted Lasso often,
Oh my
and
gosh.
one of the things that I quote is be curious, not judgmental. And I
Hmm.
think that I actually said that I had a reader um, slide into my DMs and they were kind of unhappy about how something played out in a book. And I was, more than happy to engage in that
Sure.
conversation. And I left the conversation saying, I hope that you're able to walk away from, I understand you're disappointed. That's okay. I
Sure.
hope you're able to walk away from this being curious, not
Yeah,
judgmental. And I hope it gives you a bigger sense of empathy for those around you who might be in your own life that you don't know are walking through
absolutely.
this thing.
Absolutely. Where do you get your inspiration, either for characters or stories, in kind of approaching that from the lens of empathy, where it's like, yes, we haven't lived these experiences, but where do you find your inspiration for other people, like the stories you're writing?
Um, I am very blessed to say that I've lived an interesting life.
Hmm.
I have a lot of interesting people in the world around me,
Love
and
that.
I pull a lot of inspiration from family, from things that I've gone through. I think one of the most, um, I guess, clear examples of that would be What Heals Us. So, in
Mm.
What Heals Us, Caroline goes through, or she has gone through, a kidney transplant due to
Right.
chronic illness. And if you actually look at the dedication of that book, it is dedicated to both of my parents. My dad was the kidney transplant recipient, and my mom was his donor. And so,
Gosh.
as their child, I was in elementary school when the transplant happened.
Hmm.
I saw both paths of
Yeah,
what the recipient goes through and what the donor has gone through. And I
sure.
think that has given me, a lot of really interesting perspective. And so there's, a lot of things of, I'm pulling from things my family has gone through, things I've gone through, um,
Hmm.
you know, in, interesting things that have happened in various jobs that I've had. I think of Square Deal and Poker Face, which are Maddie's story. In Poker Face, she's a pastry chef. Hannah Jane is a wedding planner, and for the longest time, I was working in the wedding industry because I was doing wedding cakes.
Yeah.
And you meet a lot of interesting people there, and you get
Hmm.
into a lot of interesting scenarios. And so many of those made it into the books. And so it was really fun to sort of think back on those times and kind of pull inspiration from that.
I love that so much. And, just driving around a city like Nashville, like it's so fun. Again, how vast your backlist is. Like there's something for everyone. There's a setting for everyone. There's a character for everyone. just like I feel like it's like I love Maggie Gates on the podcast, but it's true. I'll fangirl on the podcast. I have no shame. I absolutely love it. So, you just went through the process of re-releasing the Griffith Brothers series. What was it like to get to re-experience the release process of a series that you had already put out indie? You're a big advocate for the indie process and the trad process. Would you mind just speaking to that?
Yeah. I am very proudly now a hybrid author. I have indie books, I have fully trad books that are coming out this year, and I have the Griffith Brothers series, which is a hybrid series. So I retain the digital rights for that.
Mhm.
Berkeley in the US and Hodder in the UK, and then a couple international publishers as well have print rights for those books. So I feel like I, have my hand in a little bit of everything. And that's just been such a
Yeah.
joy. It's been such a great learning experience. I have wonderful publishing teams. I can't say
Right.
enough good things about them. They are just incredible. And so it's been a joy with the re releases. Um, I wasn't really sure how it was going to go down because they kind of came on the heels of the series finishing. So, we did all this initial marketing when they were released to indie, and I'm like, all right,
Mhm.
guys, read these books. And everybody read them. And I was like, great, nobody's going to read them now because they have already done it once. And I was so grateful that readers were just as excited as I was.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was such a treat. I got to go back and write some bonus content for each book, which really like let me fall in love with the stories again because I got to think about it from the perspective of if I could give them one more happy moment or one more,
Mhm.
interaction, what would it be? And so
Sure.
I got to play around with those characters a little bit more, and that was so much fun. I think the bonus content for Duststorm is my favorite. It is Christian, the single dad, his daughter's wedding, and you just kind of get to see everything come together, and it's so so beautiful. I get choked up whenever I think about it, and I cry anytime I
Yeah.
actually look at it. Um, I hit USA Today with two of the releases, which was so exciting.
Huge.
I was just so thrilled. Um, and it was kind of surreal. Like I feel
Yeah.
like when I think back about all those months, it was just this mirage of awesome, incredible memories that I kind of blink now and I'm like, did that actually happen? Did I actually see
Yeah.
my book in an airport? Because that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful. And I think it was so great to be able to introduce a whole new audience to the Griffith brothers. And now,
Yeah.
especially as we're gearing up for the new Wilder series to come out this fall.
It's so fun to watch your favorite indie authors like in Barnes and Noble and like watch them kind of achieve their big career moments as well. Like it has been so fun to follow along with you. I realized when you mentioned the bonus chapter, I in my brain was like, I need to ask her about this. I would love to chat about second generation before we talk about what's coming next.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of a little bit of both. Do you have to take a moment to let your second generation characters grow up in your brain a little bit? Are you really like quickly able to be like, they're adults now, they can have their love stories? And what has it been like to write second generation stories across your backlist?
So for me, I have always, for a very long time, said I'm never writing second generation. It's not something I want to touch because to me, the characters are the ages that I have written them as
Sure.
initially. And so if they're a young child, it's really hard for me to age them up to an
Sure.
appropriate adult age in my
Hmm.
head. But also, it's really hard for me to age up their parents because
Yeah,
to me,
yeah,
they're always, 20s, 30s. I don't want to age them up.
sure.
Um, and so I've always, for a long time, struggled with that. And so I think with writing the Griffith brothers bonus content, the Duststorm bonus content is the one that ages them up the most.
Hmm.
And so you see them kind of entering adulthood. And with Bree and Gracie, the daughters from Duststorm, they were already sort of in their teenage
Hmm.
years.
Right.
And so that was a little bit easier to sort of, naturally move them into that phase of life.
Sure.
I get asked a lot if I'm going to write a second generation for the Griffith brothers, and I have no plans to,
Yeah.
but I'm really excited that I actually just finished and it's off being edited. Um, I'm now writing a second generation standalone for the poker club. That's called Smoke Ring, and it will be out in December. It's going to be a holiday book.
Oh
And
my
that
gosh.
is the son of Luca and Maddie from book one, and the daughter
Amazing.
of Isaac and Hannah Jane from book three. And that is Fake Engagement, which was so much fun to play around with.
Oh my gosh. And Luca and Isaac have to be like thrilled to be parents-in-law. Like that,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just like they have to be over the moon. One of my favorites from you is Seven of Hearts. And getting to see it is a standalone, so anyone who hasn't read Poker Club, you can read that one. But it is so fun to see, like you said, the cast of characters again. And our MMC in that book is one of my all-time favorites as well. I am a perfectionist, and I am someone who owes a lot, I feel, to my parents and the people who raised me. So his character was just like deeply impactful to me.
And you're going to also see Logan and Leah in Smoke Ring. And like
Thank
everybody
goodness.
ages up together. The poker club is
Ah,
still best friends. And like you said, yes, Isaac and Luca are thrilled to be in-laws, and
thrilled.
like the Gio and Ellie, the kids, the main character of this book, are like, this is a bad idea, fake engagement. Who does that? And the parents are like, oh no, this is a great idea. You
I
guys should
love
do
that.
this. So they're just trying to set up their kids. And I
Amazing.
had so much fun playing around with it. And it healed a little bit inside of me to be able to like go
Yeah.
back and revisit those characters.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I am just over the moon excited to see them in December. So I think we should chat about everything you have coming next. When this release comes out, your most recent, or when this podcast comes out, your most recent release will have come out yesterday. Can you talk about Good Hands?
So, Good Hands is a grumpy sunshine girl on the run romance. She is a card counter who is trying to pay off her brother's debt to the mob in 1 week. She has to win 100 grand playing blackjack, and she ends up playing blackjack at the very casino owned by the mobster her brother owes money to, which is
Yes.
not a great scenario to find yourself in.
Sure.
And the very, very grumpy casino bouncer, Jude, sort of takes a liking to her in a very reluctant way. He knows what she's doing. He knows exactly who she is, and he's trying to get her out of trouble. So he keeps trying to scare her away. She keeps sneaking back in. And when a hit gets put on her, he decides to kidnap her for her own safety, and they go on the run together. So you get a good amount of enemies to lovers. There's some grumpy sunshine. There's tons of forced proximity,
Love it.
lots of banter, and it is so much fun. There's a big twist in the middle that I have heard I've gotten a lot of readers with, and so I'm hoping that no one will see it coming and it will be such a fun surprise.
I love a Maggie Gates twist. I am like 20% into my paperback, and everyone who listens to the podcast knows I'm not a paperback reader, so they're like, she must be serious. She must be very serious. And I am like living my dream. What are your favorite characteristics of these characters from Good Hands? And is there anything that you're like, you should pay attention to this for people listening?
Oh, that's a good question. So if you've read Fireline, there's a very discreet line in Fireline that says, people with J names, names that start with the letter J, are not to be trusted. And so in Good Hands, you will see a lot of characters with J names, and you should not trust them.
Smart.
Um, so my editor did not like that. She was not thrilled because she was like, girl, what is with all the J names? You have got to stop.
We'll
But
see.
I was like, no, there's a reason there. Um, and so that's a fun little tidbit. If you're
I
looking
love
for some
that.
Easter eggs,
Yeah.
beware the J names.
Yes.
My favorite things about Jude and Amelia are I think that they've both had a good amount of life under their belt.
Hmm.
They are both early to mid 30s, but he's ex military. He is now working for the mob, and he's got a lot of wounds. He has a lot of scars and things that he has to work through. And with her, she is the quintessential eldest daughter. She is always cleaning up everybody else's mistakes. She is always the one to text first to make the plans, and she does not feel seen or understood or loved. And then in comes this bad guy who's really hot, and he's the one who sees her, who takes care of her, who puts her first, and he's the one person she's not supposed to trust. And so they both have to learn how to trust each other, how to communicate, how to work together. And for two people who have really been burned by a lot of other people, that is not
Mhm.
easy. And so they have this beautiful journey of personal growth of falling in love and fighting the bad guys. And so I think it's going to be a really fun summer read.
I I just absolutely adore the eldest daughter element of this. As an eldest daughter, as the resident, perfectionist, fix it all eldest daughter, I've had so much fun starting to dive into this story. One thing that's like so well done in my opinion is you're super delicately balancing the dance between like I have to hate you and I'm coming after you, but I'm attracted to you. Was that difficult to write or did it come super naturally? I was just thinking the whole time, I'm like, this had to have been so hard to write because you
A
did it
little
so
bit.
well.
I remember writing notes about
Mhm.
halfway through because when my writing process is to just dump the story onto the page and then fix it
Yeah.
later. And so I remember writing notes where it's like they have to flirt at the beginning because it was a lot of just like this cat and mouse banter and the danger
Hmm.
and grumpiness. And I was like, there needs to be a lot of attraction. There needs to be
Sure.
this tension that, they don't want to stay away from each other. They're really attracted to each other from the get-go. Because when he does kidnap her, we need this sort of element of safety with it where
Yeah.
they have an established relationship, they're familiar with each other, and
Yeah.
there are small moments that he has proven that he's trustworthy and he's looking out for her.
Sure.
Um, and so I think it was really fun to try to write this morally gray small town romance, but
Hmm.
still give readers who are expecting a big cuddly hero,
Yeah.
all of the things that they are wanting from a Maggie Gates book.
I love it. When you went in to write this book, what was your inspiration? Where did you get like the morally gray small town bug bite from? And for people who don't know, because you're the queen of the Maggieverse Easter egg, where could they connect this story to your other stories?
So the original inspiration for this book was a movie called 21, which was actually based on another book called Bringing the House Down, which is actually based on a true story of the MIT card counting team. So lots of
Amazing.
layers there. So
Yes.
movie, book, true story.
Love it.
Um, the movie is one of my favorites. So basically there's this guy who is a math savant and he is trying to win enough money to keep his tuition going for college. And he ends up getting caught up in this like very seedy underworld type scenario. But I loved the
Sure.
card counting aspect of it. I wrote a whole series called The Poker Club. So I love card games, but um, I really thought it was such an interesting plot. And I was like, okay, but what if it was a woman card counting? And what if the bouncer knows what she's up to and he's trying to stop her? Um, and so I had so much fun with that.
Love it.
Um, what was the second question? Please refresh my memory.
How does it connect in the Maggieverse? And are
Thank
there
you.
any cameos or just like you're the queen of the Easter egg order reading? So is there anything they should be sure to read first?
Thank you. Sorry, my brain was like,
No,
I
no, they
got
were
so
actually
excited
like
talking
not
about
well
movies.
connected questions at all. I was just like, don't forget to ask. So I asked them both. I'm sorry.
Yes, so it does connect into the Maggieverse. So there's
Mhm.
two books that really connect pretty thoroughly with it. One being 100 Lifetimes of Us, which is a bodyguard romance, and you're introduced to this bodyguard private security company called Keller and Associates. And there's one particular guy who works for Keller and Associates. His name is Cole. He pops into a lot of my books to save a lot of people. Everybody loves
Busy.
Cole. Everyone is begging for a Cole book. But so he will pop into this one as well, and it's a really good setup if you're curious about the tone of the book. Um, Jude, our main character, is a former Navy SEAL. He has that military background,
Mhm.
and he is good fictional friends with one of my all time favorite heroes that I've written, which is Shane Hutchins from What Saves Us.
Love.
So they were in the military together. They have this sort of similar background. And the really funny thing is, in What Saves Us, Shane is a former Navy SEAL, and his leading lady, Beth, is a math professor.
Stunning.
In good hands, Jude is a former Navy SEAL, and his leading lady is a math professor. That was not planned at all. And it was only
Love it.
until like the book was completely done and I was talking to my PA about graphics for Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I write the same book twice? Um, but they're very different stories. And it was just
Very
very
different.
funny to me that they have those two
Yeah.
things in common.
I love it. I was like, again, the trope thing where it's like same ingredients, different story entirely. I absolutely
100%.
love it. I feel like I'm not going to get away on this podcast now that you've mentioned him without mentioning Cole. I'm going to give you the platform to tell the people his truth. I'm You've mentioned on multiple occasions he's likely not getting a story. Can you just confirm that for the people so I don't get yelled at in the comments?
Well, Paige,
Don't do this to me.
I will say until about 2 weeks ago, Cole was never, ever, ever, we are never getting back together getting a book. I don't know when it will happen, but I have a book for Cole.
The world just stopped turning. Did you feel that?
And I know. And the funny thing is, again, same conversation with my PA when I sent her the book for her to like early read it and, do all the content things. She was like, girl, you know what you've done. Because on a daily basis, I get asked when Cole is getting a book. And she's like,
That's
you
why
know what you've done. You're going to make it
up.
so much worse. And I was like, I know. I'm prepared for it. It's fine. And then about 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my agent and we're, talking through all these book plots and what I want to write. And I kind of had this light bulb moment. I was like, wait, that could be Cole's book. And so it's not on my schedule right now. I don't know if or when I will write it, but it might happen.
I am floored. I literally
This is the first time I've said it out loud.
It's never happening. Oh my gosh, the world stopped turning. I am so excited. One day. There's so many exciting things to come in between, but the answer is now not never know.
Yeah.
Which is so exciting.
I need people to read this one and tell me if you like Good Hands, because it would probably be very similar. So,
okay, no pressure, everyone. Clipped for the internet to answer questions on. Oh my gosh, this is very exciting. But speaking of what's next, it's a very, very busy 2026 for you. It's the year of Maggie Gates. Can you talk about after Good Hands, what people can be expecting to see from you through the end of the year?
Yeah. So after Good Hands comes out June 2nd, so when this airs, it will be out and available to read.
So
I
exciting.
will have a new cowboy romance series starting September 15th with Berkeley Publishing. That is called the Wilder Estate series, and book one is called Blue Jean Summer. And I don't know if people will be able to see this, but the cover is stunning.
Stunning.
I'm obsessed with this.
So
it is
good.
My favorite. So if you're listening with your ears and you haven't seen the cover, Blue Jean Summer, it's my favorite cover of all time. But this is a marriage of convenience. It's the first time I've written marriage of convenience.
Fun.
And I think that's such a fun trope, especially with a small town setting. You see it a lot in dark romance. And so I wanted to really bring it into this small town cowboy feel. And so Hayes Wilder has inherited the Wilder estate from his late grandfather under the condition that he must be married because some of the land has to be set aside specifically for his spouse. And so if he is not married, he might lose the land entirely. And so he really bluntly asks his childhood friend, Catherine, who is the current Miss Virginia, to marry him. And she says yes. And there's a lot of money in it for her. So she's like, yes, I'm very much in debt. Please pay it off.
Yeah.
And in this economy, girl, I get it. So
don't blame her.
They have this really beautiful, I like to say it's very soft and dreamy. I think sometimes my books can err on the side of like gritty and angsty and very emotional for small town romance. But this one, I just wanted it to be such a soft place to land. It is so comforting and it just feels like a warm hug. And it's this idyllic summer romance that will just sweep you off your feet. And there's this really beautiful found family aspect to it. I've like to say that it feels like a combination of the Poker Club and the Griffith Brothers. So you get that cowboy aspect, but you also get this really beautiful ensemble cast. And I have just had so much fun writing them.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited for that story. I saw something where that cover was on a post with End of August by Noah Kahn, and I said, this makes sense to me. So
It does.
gentle, like just the transition season. I couldn't explain it, but I was like, this, like the earth is in equilibrium. Like this is correct. So
Yes.
I
That's the
absolutely love
perfect
that.
feel for it.
Right? I was like, I haven't even read it. I've just seen the cover and I just know the blurb, but for some reason this just feels correct. So I love that. And then we chatted a little bit about December, but do you want to chat on December a little bit further with Smoke Ring?
Yeah, so Smoke Ring is my first second generation book, and that will be out December 1st. It is a complete standalone, so you don't need to read the Poker Club beforehand. You can dive right into this one. It's a great place to
Amazing.
start. So, Eloise Lawson is all grown up now, and she is a defense attorney living in New York City.
Star.
Gio DeRossi has followed in his parents' footsteps, and he is a celebrity chef in his own right. When she has a sex tape scandal that threatens the trial she is working on, she has no choice but to uh, make her reputation look a little bit better. And she does that by getting engaged to her childhood best friend, Gio. They move in together. There's tons of forced proximity. There is this really beautiful story of choosing each other and learning to communicate with somebody that you think you know really well and you really don't. And for those who have already read the Poker Club and love that series, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia. And I had fun
Mhm.
slipping in these little moments and Easter eggs and parallels from the original series into this
Sure.
one.
I am over the moon excited about that story, and I can't wait to see some of my all-time favorite characters again, grown even more up. So that is going to be amazing. Is there anything else we need to keep our eye out for in the Maggieverse aside from this mysterious Cole development?
Yeah, this summer we're gonna have some new book covers. We're gonna do a little backlist magic. So if
Love
you
that.
keep an eye on my social media, we'll have some new covers that I'm really excited about. Um, and then hopefully we'll have some new book announcements for 2027.
So
So
exciting. And
yeah,
for anyone who, first of all, social media, phenomenal. Your team, phenomenal. I've told you this a million times. And if you love a good newsletter, Maggie's the newsletter to follow along with. Your newsletter is so much fun. And that is you, right? I
it
think I saw
is.
that
That's
the other
like the
day.
only thing that I
Yeah.
still touch.
Oh my gosh. So
So
if you're like wanting to follow along with Maggie, her newsletter is just one of my favorite things to land in my inbox.
thank
So
you.
yes, oh my
I'm
gosh.
glad to know somebody reads it.
Yes, I'm sat every time. And you all should follow along. It's always insightful. I feel like your newsletters are bonus content in my brain. It's just like more for
Thank
Maggie.
you.
Yes. So be sure to subscribe there. I always like to end episodes with the fact that you have a captive audience of Maggie Gates fans. Is there anything that you would like them to know or you would like to say to them while we're all here together at book club?
I love you guys. Please read Good Hands. If you
Yes.
want Cole's book, let me know how you like it. So I
It,
hope you
it sounds
guys
like it
love
is
it.
a read this and then bag. So we need to be reading people. I love it. That's so exciting. And yes, it's available. And then next week it'll be available on audio. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Fingers crossed the Audible gods smile down on us and
Yes.
give us some good audio juju going on.
I'm sure they will. We just attract all good things here on the Page by Page Book Club. So all good vibes. Maggie, thank you so much for being here and for spending your time with me on a busy release week at that. It has
Thank you
been
for
a
having
joy.
me.
Oh my gosh, you're just incredible. You know, I'm the biggest fan. I'll do one more Maggie Gates, biggest fan in the world. I'll just cry at the end of this podcast. But if you have not read anything by Maggie, go on her social media. She has a ideal read through order for peak Easter egg experience, and that is my suggested reading order. And then you can just search Page and Print Maggie Gates for all of my recommendations as well. You'll get plenty of content there.
I love
Um,
seeing them.
oh my gosh, it is pretty much constant. I'm like, should I just stop tagging her? I'll keep posting, but I should probably leave her alone at this
I
point.
love it.
I'm so glad to hear it. But thank you so much for being here, and to everyone else, I
Thank
will see you
you.
in the next one.
Bye.